night conservative talk show in America, Crackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air. You are the best conservative talk. Crackheads on Crackheads.
There it is. But was it the largest spider you ever saw?
It was the largest spider I have ever seen, and that's a story for another time, because that's quite embarrassing. I think I cried, and I might have wet myself just a little bit.
Ow.
Because that thing was literally like the size of a dime. And
a dime.
It was ridiculous. Yes, it was ridiculous. But like one of those plastic money dimes that like the kids have, that are about the size of like a fist.
Oh, so you're saying the spider was actually the size of a Buick?
Yeah, almost.
As far as you were concerned?
Yeah, as far as I was concerned, yes. I think I expended like a full magazine, and I might have had a reload in there somewhere.
It's an X spider.
Yeah.
Times 20.
Yeah, when I say magazine, I meant like an actual like firearm pistol.
That's what I
like lots of rounds, like 100.
thought you were saying.
Yeah, like. Welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen,
August 3rd, 2016. I'm your host, Sackhead Clint. Here today, filling in for the lovely Sean Lewis, and newest member of the Sackheads team is the bloviating Zeppelin himself. So welcome.
Good day, good evening. And it's sad to have Sean gone. However, he is on vacation, and he did emphasize, if I'm not mistaken, that he is not the hell calling up.
He did emphasize that, and here's the thing. So I come in tonight, and we all kind of have our things, right? We all kind of have our strengths, our things that we kind of do for the network and for the show. And my thing is content program planning. Like, that's my thing.
Right, exactly.
And I come in, and there's one thing on earth that is sacred to me. And Sean is going to be listening to this on the replay.
Okay.
One thing on earth that is sacred to me, and it's my frickin' whiteboard.
I see it. It's right there. For those who your video is not working right there,
right?
Because the video normally does work, and you normally see Clint and Sean. But I can see you on the bank of televisions that are right above.
Yeah, right above my head, right
but
there.
But there is a wonderful whiteboard that Clint writes every time, and Clint is in charge of designating the topics for every show.
Yeah, times, programming, research, like that's
exactly
the thing, right?
Yeah, you set the topics.
And I come in, and my board has been hijacked.
What?
I don't come in and hijack like I did hijack the soundboard and stuff tonight, right? But I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't pretend to know what I'm doing. Somebody wrote on my big board of topics, and it was Sean Lewis's handwriting.
Is that all? Sean's?
No, that's mine.
That's yours.
Yeah,
okay.
I did this. I not only erased what Sean had written up there.
So it was blather, is what you're saying.
It was
puerile crap.
It would be like if Sean came in and sat in the command seat for the show and I had like twisted every knob, which I did because I don't know how this thing works. But it's like when he first comes in and sees that I've twisted every knob and I've plugged things in different fashion just to see what would happen, because I do that.
Because you know Vesuvius will erupt.
Right. And so it's like that. It's like when he has to come in and spend about 3.5 hours just plugging and rechecking everything because I just screwed all up, not on purpose, maybe a little bit. It's like that. And so I just pictured Sean and his like little Vienna sausage fingers like giggling and laughing the entire time he's writing on my board. And then he didn't even have the decency to erase it. I come in, and this is what I find. And it looks like he wrote it with his foot. Like his left foot, not even his right foot.
Alrighty then. By the way, did you know that there's a leak in the studio? There is a leak.
There is a leak in the studio, and I don't know if anybody else can hear it, but we can.
I can hear the leak.
Yeah, I can hear it also. Maybe it's Sean.
He does plumbing, doesn't he? In the offside, isn't that how he makes a couple of dollars on the other hand? Couple of quid, couple of pence.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Mostly from clogging things up, not from like fixing anything.
Well, there is an actual sink in here. I've noticed that right around the corner. There's an actual sink in a bathroom or whatnot.
There is.
And there's a cabinet, and I'm sure that's where it's coming from. So if we can hear it in here, imagine how much water is actually leaking in there.
And now I'm wondering if Sean had something to do with this.
Purposely.
Yep. Because we need Sean.
Yep.
I'm getting the sense here that something very nefarious is happening.
Well, see, that's how you make yourself useful.
Right.
What did someone say about a crisis?
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's right.
Right. So from now on, using that theory and just seeing how Sean has sabotaged us, I'm going to take my whiteboard if I'm not going to be in for a week.
I think that's only fair.
And I'm going to take his little one here so he can't steal my whiteboard idea. Right?
Is that yours too over there?
It is now. It is now.
Okay. Let me guess, that was Sean calling in.
I don't know. I hung up on the person.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just curious.
I just hung up. I don't even want to take the chance that maybe it is him.
You know what I didn't realize until I started booming around on SHR Media?
What's that?
And you guys are, by the way, for those tuning in, everybody here, Clint, Sean are on sackheads.blogspot.com. You guys call yourself a late-night radio show. And to me, that really didn't sink in because I can look outside right now and it's light.
A little bit.
Here in the Pacific, it's 8:09.
Yes.
But I keep forgetting that a lot of people listen on the East Coast, and it's friggin' 11 o'clock right there.
Right.
So I finally understand it, and I'm finally starting to come to appreciate why you guys call yourself a late-night show, because to me...
And why Ken calls us the best late-night talk show in America. Because to be fair, we are.
As well he should.
He should, because we are.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's only one radio show that you need to listen to late at night, and that's the Sackheads radio show. By the way, there it is again, another drip. Anyway... If only we had a vice. If only we had a wrench.
I have a vice. I have a vice.
Do you? Mine is not smoking cigarettes.
No, mine is not either.
Mine used to be heroin, but I quit. I picked a terrible year to quit heroin, considering all the crap that's going on right now.
And considering it's really like not a crime anymore in California.
No, hell no.
So you are double.
I'm doing well.
Look, because I care. You should get back on it.
But the spaces between my toes look like crap, though.
Look, I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable, not because I understand what you're saying right now.
No, you're laughing with me. You're not laughing at me. I sense this. You're laughing with me.
I'm laughing with you. So, anything exciting happened this week before we get into our topics? For you?
Not particularly, but I want to say, just by looking at the board, and we talked about earlier, my God, is this a target-rich environment for all the crap that's going on these days?
It is, and I kind of had to pare some things down and pick some, some top ones that I really wanted to get to tonight. And you and I kind of touched base a little bit before about them, but yeah, this was an interesting week for things to talk about. Now, this was my first week actually back in the world from exile, but it wasn't really exile because, I knew where I was. But so, did you hear about the D.C. Metro Transit police officer this week?
Yes, I did, and I'm just noticing that there's some breaking news from Socks. From Socks! You know those people, they call them Argyle. Anyway, there's a woman killed, 5 others injured in London's stabbing attack, and apparently that just came up.
Yeah, edge weapon attack. They're not ruling out terror. They're already throwing the terror word out there. Obviously, they need to outlaw knives. So, why do mass killings or attacks happen in London? Like they don't even allow guns. So it's almost like it's not the tool that's used, but it's the methodology.
Come on, if you would disarm the American populace, then everything would stop. The skies would be purple and blue, and flowers would bloom, and everyone would be happy if we just disarmed America.
Yes. No, I agree with that 110%. I agree with you that freaking wingnut crackpots think that way. So, this DC Metro Transit police officer, and this is why this story bothered me, and in red is kind of like just what American law enforcement needed right now.
Yes, the absolute last thing, for Christ's sake.
So, this DC Transit cop converted to Muslim, and he was arrested for providing, I believe, material support to ISIS.
It said he was arrested by the FBI on Wednesday, but was on law enforcement's radar since 2010, according to an affidavit.
Right.
He apparently met several times with some guy whose name I can't mention because I simply can't pronounce it before that guy was arrested in 2012 for plotting to carry out a suicide bombing at the U.S. Capitol building. But because the guy's a member of DC Metro, not like he wouldn't know anything about almost everything there is to know
about the transit system, right, in DC.
Right, because I'm sure they all work together on everything, not just transit, but the Capitol Police and every other law enforcement agency, because there are 5.7 million of them, all different agencies in the District of Columbia. So this is the perfect storm of stupidity for something like this. It's just exactly what law enforcement, just like you said, doesn't need. But basically what happened is this guy started to meet with an informant that was working with the FBI who convinced the guy that he was traveling overseas to join ISIS in Syria. Mm-hmm. And then the charge indicated that he provided some material support. This is fun. You'll enjoy this. He bought gift cards to support ISIS through mobile messaging accounts. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're aware of it. I'm sure that there may be different types of, I may not get your names right on the East Coast, but here on the West Coast in Sacramento, you can go into a Raley's, which is one of our major supermarkets, and if you want to, you can go onto the rack, and right there with Apple and Amazon and a lot of the other major gift cards that you can get. There's also another one with ISIS. So if you want, you can buy an ISIS gift card in Raley's or CVS Pharmacy or any of the other pharmacies.
I haven't seen this.
And apparently that's what this guy did. He bought a gift card, and ladies and gentlemen, let that be a lesson to you.
Right.
That stack of gift cards in your supermarket or your pharmacy, and if you see one that says ISIS, you can be guaranteed that the FBI are peeking around the corner to see who picks up the ISIS gift card, so don't.
And here's the thing, I think maybe they spelled it backwards. So maybe they spelled it CC. So people thought maybe they were purchasing like a Hispanic or a Spanish gift card for yes.
Right, exactly.
Which is and very clever marketing, by the way, for the terrorists, if that is in fact what they did.
No, that's
I'm gonna say
that's perfectly in keeping with the illegal Mexicans who are saying "si se puede."
Right.
So yes, we can.
Yes,
and
we can.
CC. Who says ISIS are imbeciles? They're not, because it caught this guy.
They're very smart. This transit police officer dressed up for Halloween, according to one of the articles I read. I think it was the Fox News article I read.
Okay.
Saying he dressed up as Jihadi John for Halloween.
Okay. I don't know you well enough to know if you're pulling me crankmate.
No.
Or whether...
No. I am 110% telling the truth. Look, you pull the article up. It's written by Matthew Dean. It was posted today on FoxNews.com. He once dressed up as Jihadi John for Halloween and was charged on Wednesday. Now, with this costume, he not only dressed up as Jihadi John, but he had like a mannequin with like a stuffed orange jumpsuit with him to simulate somebody that had been beheaded.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. That's just what we need in America. Just here's my besides the fact that this guy absolutely has no business being a cop and should be tried and should be handled if these allegations are true. This is not
what American law enforcement needs right now. And this is not what the country needs right now. And here's why I say that. Here's my concern. You have some jackass pencil pusher nerd FBI agent, right, who perhaps might want to share information or could benefit from sharing information with a local law enforcement agency.
Certainly.
And now the FBI, in a knee-jerk reaction, or the federal government, or Homeland Security, or any of the other multitude of three-letter organizations, if they decide, well, we're going to kind of keep this close to our vest because we don't know, obviously, that we can trust local law enforcement.
Because
officers.
The FBI shares so readily with everyone.
Right, but in theory, post 9/11, they were
It got better.
It got better,
Right.
which isn't saying much, right? Because 10% of zero is zero.
Yeah.
But still, it's 10%. But it's theoretically, it got a little bit better.
Reminds me of a Billy Preston song.
Gosh.
Nothing times nothing is nothing.
Other agencies kind of shared a little bit more, but this is one of my concerns with this. And we're not even talking about the public opinion and public trust aspect of this yet, which we know has already been impacted based upon a multitude of reasons which we've covered on this show ad nauseum. But this is a concern going back to perhaps a pre-9/11 mentality. And just before the FBI cast stones, and they're not at this point, but just in case they want to, didn't they just have an analyst or somebody that was arrested for providing material support to the Chinese?
I don't remember
that
if it
came out
was-
this week also.
Was it recently?
Yeah.
The person, one of the greatest destroyers of the intelligence agencies, and certainly of the FBI, came through the FBI. If you remember the Hansen case, and that was probably, I'm guessing, at least 10 years ago or so. But it was one of the worst, even worse than some of the other cases that they've had through the CIA. Then there was the other individual through the U.S. Navy who did that. And, of course, Mr. Snowden. Let's not forget
Mr.
about
Snowden.
him.
So this Metro Transit police officer, and so we know ISIS has, or terrorists have attacked transit systems before, right? Spain, France.
Right, exactly.
So we know they have an interest in transit. Wasn't there a foiled transit plot in New York City? Also,
there were quite a number, as a matter of fact.
So we know transit systems are a viable target for terrorists. So the fact that this guy was a Metro Transit police officer is disturbing. The fact that he was a police officer at all, obviously very disturbing.
Well, this is right out of the jihadi playbook.
Oh, absolutely.
Any mass transit system that you have will make a wonderful target for any elements of ISIS. And you, ladies and gentlemen, you can't tell me that there are not already ISIS elements within the United States already. I'm saying not those who have recently come through the Mexican border, but I'm saying there are ISIS elements they're already within the United States that are present, and I would only cross my fingers and toes and eyes and say that they're already being monitored by various personnel within the United States.
So I want to get your take on something, because something else came out about this former officer as well. One, during these interviews, so he first came on the radar, according to this article, in 2015 when he was giving an interview, and he admitted in this interview that he had that Jihadi John costume, stuffed the orange jumpsuit to simulate a headless hostage.
That's still just so over the top.
I know. Well, here's the thing. In the same interview, this guy admitted to having previously dressed up as a Nazi. He collected Nazi memorabilia, which I'm not a big deal. I mean, World War II buffs do that. That's not a huge red flag for me. Whatever. But he dressed up as a Nazi. Okay, collected the memorabilia. But he also admitted to possessing a tattoo of a German eagle on his neck. So, how confused is this guy that he doesn't know if he wants to go Nazi or jihadi? Because there's no real middle ground there, right? I mean, as far as I know, terrorists hate fascists. am I missing something?
No,
here.
what's your? I don't know if anybody that's listening has ever watched the TV show Banshee, but there was a white supremacist who was on the show as a police officer in this make-believe town of Banshee, Pennsylvania, where all sorts of terrible things happened. And it's called a clue. If you see one of your persons or recruits with a Nazi, the eagle and perhaps a swastika on someplace like the neck or something like that, that might be a clue as to that person's proclivities. Just saying.
And that would be a clue that I think even the FBI can pick up on.
One would only hope. But on the other hand, look at it this way. Look at it this way. Seriously, the people down in San Bernardino, from the people, the husband and wife team, the wife who, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she was the one that ended up corrupting that particular individual and bringing that mindset into that household. The neighbors there were afraid to say that anything was going on because of the PC nation that we've got right now. So they had an idea, they had kind of an inkling as to what was going on, and even though it turns out they were absolutely true by suspecting that, they couldn't say anything because of the temper of the times. So when we have somebody that may be screaming something, we're going to get to it later, I'm sure, because I see it up there. But, Khan and Trump's kind of pseudo-ridiculous statement about Khan's wife, despite the fact that Trump is essentially true, right, but you can't say that. But, that's called a clue. And we're not looking in the right directions, we're not looking at the clues, and we're still searching grandmothers in wheelchairs.
Yes.
What the hell?
Because we are so PC. We're so PC. We don't want to offend anybody that it's not even okay to criminally profile. Because if you criminally profile, of which race may be a component, you're still a damn racist.
Well, the other thing is, you may or may not know, and I think I mentioned this last time, but I'm not sure. There are currently 30 law enforcement agencies around the United States that are under various consent decrees and or being monitored by the federal government for alleged racist tendencies and or the past application of what they would consider to be over-the-top use of force. So the monitoring is there. It's going on. You can say some things, but you can't say other things. You can hint at some things. You can't hint at other things. In this particular case with the D.C. cop, I noticed, I was just reading, this guy traveled. He actually physically went to Libya in 2011. Well, it's 2016. That was 5 years ago. My guess is that he was, or maybe you do. No. Was he employed in 2011 by the D.C. Metro? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I can try and find out, but I didn't look at his employment background or.
But you would think that sooner or later it's going to be revealed. Well, you can do a check and find out how many people leave the United States and under what circumstances. One of the first things that I was asked was, have I ever been out of the United States? When I was just on a friggin' cruise, for example, and needed a passport. So it's there. He already now, who in their right mind, even in 2011, and that's when Gaddafi was alive, who in their right mind goes to Libya? I know, I like to go to Libya because I'm looking for a special tan. I'm looking for just that special thing that Libya can provide me. And again, post 9/11, that's called a clue. The guy tried to go a second time. He told, this is also a clue, he was telling law enforcement officials that he was working with rebels to try to overthrow,
like Star Wars type rebels, like Luke Skywalker, like Han Solo. Oh,
exactly.
Different type of rebels.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I misread that.
Exactly, and according to court documents. So it says numerous times he allegedly expressed desires to stockpile weapons, attack law enforcement, and warn others about being watched.
So this knucklehead has been with the department since 2003.
Oh, okay.
So he was a veteran. He was a veteran cop.
Yeah. So 2011, you've got a law enforcement officer in D.C. who goes to Libya.
Yes.
And I'm guessing he already has a tattoo, a confusing tattoo, because what the hell are you thinking? On his neck.
I don't know. How do you
indicating
do that?
a Nazi background. And this guy doesn't raise any red flags. Well, of course. Nidal Hassan didn't raise any red flags.
No, not one.
No. It's just astounding. But you're absolutely right. This is the last thing that law enforcement needs right now.
And so I kind of want to touch on that for a moment. And I know we've talked about it at length in the past. But here we have American law enforcement in a position where there are so many things that are polarized in this country right now, politically and everything else, including some of the community's relationships with law enforcement and views on law enforcement. And I haven't read any studies about how that's impacting recruitment or anything like that. But there is a huge anti-law enforcement movement. Look, one only has to look to the DNC at the moment of silence for fallen officers, and the fact that there were those in the crowd that couldn't even honor that.
No, they were cheering and booing.
Yeah, at a major party's national convention. That is so far beyond the pale to me.
It took them 2 nights before they even decided that they were going to put an American flag on the stage.
Yes.
And those flags disappeared from Cleveland City Hall. Imagine that. They happened to be local.
Yeah,
that's where they got them.
They didn't bring them. They didn't bring them and prepare for them. But this is the Democratic Party right now. But so now you have a peace officer that's arrested in connection with supporting a terror organization, which is beyond inter-community relations now. This is just the last thing that cops need in this country. And
well, if for no other reason than trust.
That's what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the community's trust. And conversely, the officer's ability to effectively police the community and provide public safety. Because look, you can have X number of law enforcement officers out there providing patrol services. But if the community doesn't want those officers there, they don't trust them, they don't want them there, they don't help them there, really what is the only way those officers are going to impact that community is if they see something happen in front of them. Good luck solving a case. Good luck getting cooperation from business owners if they need
business owners,
video,
residents,
if they need
exactly.
whatever, right? And that's the real danger here. I mean, you may make a nick in the crime rate, but then what's that going to do to your conviction rate if those officers are getting in front of a jury and because of that relationship, you're not going to get a conviction anymore.
Well, you're going to get what occurred in 1992 in the trial. You're going to get jury nullification.
Yeah, a lot.
However, I should point this out. That officer might do well in either Dearborn or Hamtramck. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't think that there are already locales within the United States where law enforcement is not welcome in terms of the Muslim community, you would be wrong. They already do exist here in the United States. And there are those who would tell you, perhaps, that there are not no-go zones in France, where in fact there are. And I know this because my brother went to France
and England
twice, and England.
Yep.
And my brother even then said that they were so cavalier about it that every night there were what they called barbecues, where the various Muslims from North Africa who were lighting cars on fire, and that still continues. Marseille, if you were to go to Marseille, you would be one of a very handful of few individuals if you weren't Muslim in that particular town. Marseille is mostly Muslim at this time. So
doesn't Marseille mean Muslim? It sounds really close.
It's very close.
And so I wonder if that's why they moved there.
Well, and it's a port town. It's very beautiful.
We're up against a break. When we come back, BZ's going to lead us off talking about U.S. airstrikes now in Libya. All this and more when we return on the Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network.
breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was made to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Millman. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the Unpleasant Blind Guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholics.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sako as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back, Sackheads Radio Show. I'm your host, Sackhead Clint, in for Sean, the bloviating Zeppelin BZ.
Conservative radio done right.
And really, is it conservative libertarian radio done right-ish? I mean, would that be a more accurate description?
Right. Yeah, let's be a little nebulous there. Let's not be so concrete.
Let's try this. Conservative-ish media done right. No, hang on. Conservative libertarian media done right-ish.
Kind of, sort of.
Done kind of to the right of center.
Mostly.
On most issues. What do you think? That would be a more accurate disclaimer. Look, I don't want to get sued for false advertising here.
We could be a little bit more squishy if
right?
we want. I know, let's get Paul Ryan. Why don't we?
I love this idea. So here's the plan. And now I'm pretty sure we're on a break, so this is just our secret, BZ. We redo all of the commercials.
Somebody in chat said I can't hear the commercial.
Oh, good. No, it's perfect. It's just commercials. Do you guys really want to hear commercials anyways? Let's be honest.
Wait a minute. And then somebody says a live show normally acknowledges their guest. We don't have a guest.
We acknowledged BZ. You mean guests in the chat room?
I'm not sure.
Who is that? Who wants to be acknowledged? Look, first of all, folks.
Okay,
Hang on. Before you cry.
Golf Dogs.
Golf. How are you? Hey, listen. So I'm going to apologize to everybody in chat. Sean does the chat roll, and he usually acknowledges everybody because he loves everybody. He's like the social media guy, social butterfly. That's what he does. He flits about. He has his rainbow streamer that he trails behind him as he skips through the tulips. Even though I'm running the board, I am not on chat because that's technology. So BZ is over in chat, so there is still a Sackheads representative here.
I'm looking
in chat.
I don't have...
Oh, feel free to interact.
I don't have a password to get in here.
So we're monitoring you, so we apologize for not acknowledging all our friends in the chat room. So BZ, who's in the chat?
Well, let's look. Dave, it looks like Dave Milner is here.
Dave.
And White Mamba is here. I send tweets to White Mamba now and then. Golf Dogs says, "Night all, this is a joke." And Dave Milner says, "Night golf." And Dave says, "I'm eating din din and listening." And White Mamba says, "That's true. Could be possible it was recorded earlier. Was kind of odd getting into the chat room and hearing the feed properly. Wonder if we can find out via Spreaker.
This is not.
Or SHR, if it is live or a first air archive."
Are they still in chat, and is it still a question? Because we gotta acknowledge that. Live. See what happens when Sean's not here? See what happens when Sean's here? People think that Sean is the only one that can run a live show, and that might be accurate to a point.
It's accurate.
That might be accurate to a point.
I don't know how to run that board over there yet.
Yeah, so I'm doing okay on the board, but seriously, we were looking at this board like how to get live on air like a monkey doing a math problem for a good 5 minutes, couple minutes. I don't know. Do I have to do this? I don't know.
This one?
Yeah. Look, what happens if we push this? Because that's always a good. Because what could happen?
I know.
What could go wrong? Right. That's Sean's theme for my life. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I'm a monkey. Can I fling poo at the computer? Maybe it'll work then.
No, it totally works. I've done it before. Are they still unhappy?
It's Dave says, "Oh yeah, Clint, let's see you break a wine glass with your voice."
Oh, great challenge, but I don't have a wine glass here. However, our next After Dark show, we do have a special guest who has agreed to join us in studio with wine and glasses to where we might actually be able to make that happen.
Do you guys, I have an excellent question, and I'm sure you can probably answer. Do you guys ever just, because now it really is honest to God dark outside on the left coast, do you guys ever just get in here and dim the lights and open up your favorite flask of whatever and just knock some shot down and decide that, we're going to see what the hell erupts?
Look, absolutely. And those are our After Dark shows.
I bet that'd be a great time.
If you notice our bottle of whiskey right up there,
right,
that is damn near empty. I think there's like a quarter inch left.
Can't quite.
That is so. On the break, I'll show you.
All right.
So yes, we do that.
Dave says, "Is it a bottle of Thunder Chicken?"
It's not. Well, since the question's asked, hang on. You got the con for a second, because I'm going to go grab it.
Clint is actually going to get up right now and walk over to that particular bottle. I think that would be just a glowingly bastardly time to get everybody freshly lubricated in here and see just what happens to spew forth.
Hang on, BZ. Now I know you haven't been around us or our listeners for an extended period of time. You can't tell everybody here in the Sackhead studio or our lovely fans to get lubed up, because that has a completely different meaning.
A different connotation.
That has a different connotation. And notice I'm taking my shirt off right now. It's something that I can't help. It's just I hear get lubed up and things just happen.
The video cameras are once again broken. The streaming video. Oh my God, you're right. Look at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can hear this. That is an actual bottle with stopper. It says, wait a minute, how do you pronounce this? Bullite?
Billet? So you can't pronounce it like a French thing because it's American.
Bulleit. Bullite? Bourbon.
Yeah.
Says Frontier Whiskey. And I would estimate, would you not, that's maybe about a half inch left in there. Now, this might make a good hour.
No, that'd be gone like in a segment.
No, I mean the bottle about an hour.
Right. Look,
are you guys planning to have one? If you have one,
you're invited
in the not too terribly distant future.
Yeah,
I think it would be just a gale storm of fun.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely invited. Well, you were there when.
Well, we had the bourbon...
Bourbon Smackdown in Vegas.
Smackdown,
right. And we're going to do it. And so look, I accept that challenge to break a wine glass with my voice. And when our esteemed, amazing, awesome guest is here in studio with the wine and with wine glasses that will be provided, we can see what we can do because we do have an amazing wine-drinking guest that we are going to have in here very, very soon. And that is one that I accept. I accept said challenge.
Is that a person yet to be named who cannot be named now?
That is exactly correct. Now, if there's a gunshot before the glass breaks, just know it's probably a pre-recorded something or other from the soundboard.
It's going to come from the board.
Right,
exactly.
but it will be my voice that breaks it.
Of course.
If we get drunk enough to start shooting glasses, that's a good show.
And that's the kind of show that, ladies and gentlemen, everybody needs to tune in. Like I say, when you have that day, excuse me, when you have that night, oh, for God's sakes, please invite me. It'll be, that reminds me. I know it's 2 weeks overdue. And I told you guys that I would do this, but I've been working on it, and the resolution on the photos so damn big, it's taken me a long time to do it. But probably sometime tomorrow, I'm going to post photographs from everybody in SHR Media from Freedom Fest in Las Vegas from about 2 weeks ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you have never seen Clint before, if you've never seen Sean before, if you've never seen the exceptional conservative before, or the underground professor before, and you've never happened to see them drink with Steve Forbes, I have all, and George Foreman. Now, George didn't drink with us, though. Excuse me. There's going to be a lot of photos coming tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested, tomorrow sometime go to bloviatingzeppelin.net, and you'll see my recap of the wonderful time that we all had under the aegis of SHR Media, conservative media done right, shrmedia.com, from the Freedom Fest 2016 in Las Vegas. Lots of photos. And actually, I've got a great photo of yourself, Clint.
You do? Is there such a thing? I usually break cameras.
No, not at all. I've got some great photos of you and Sean. And Sean and you. And I think there's one particularly very nice one, as a matter of fact, of you interviewing Steve Forbes, if I'm not mistaken.
That was Sean. I was interviewing George Foreman.
George Foreman. All right. Foreman. Okay, good point. George Foreman. And it was still interesting because somebody didn't Sean go out and didn't he grab Steve Forbes and invite him over?
I think the professor grabbed Steve Forbes.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but Sean poured him a drink because he said, "Hey, I need a drink," and so he got up and he poured him a Booker's bourbon. So that's how SHR had bourbon with Steve Forbes.
And it was great. He actually sat down. And I still don't know what Sean got it, but pulled out this really nice.
You don't want to know where he pulled it out.
Randy sniffed it.
Yeah.
And it actually looked clean, which was great.
It looked clean.
And Steve sat down and knocked back some bourbon, which was a wonderful thing. Then he signed that
the Booker's
box. He signed that for Sean.
Yeah, and now Sean refuses to even touch it. It's a shame. He's going to let a little bit of that bottle of Booker. Did we crush that? We might have killed that. So look, I don't want to waste this segment too long, but I want to get into U.S. airstrikes in Libya.
Okay, good point. enough of this ass-jackery, so to speak. We bombed Libya again. Isn't that an amazing thing? U.S. launches airstrikes on ISIS targets in Libya. I wonder if that has anything to do with, what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of a disingenuous, that's right, another D word, distraction. United States has expanded its airstrikes against ISIS into Libya, according to CNN, bombing targets in the coastal city of Sirte, U.S. officials said. The attacks mark the beginning of an ongoing U.S. air campaign in Libya. A Pentagon spokesman said the airstrikes came at the request of the Libyan Government of National Accord, or GNA, to support forces trying to quash ISIS in Libya, spokesman said. Isn't that interesting? We're back in Libya, where we seem to have failed remarkably before, and now we're back. We're back. How did we get back? Very interesting. Any thoughts on that?
I do. I think it's curious how we're back engaged in this type of activity at this time in the election cycle.
Yes, this is just a hair late.
This is what I'm finding interesting. When people think that the foreign policy of the Obama administration is an utter and complete failure, now he's going back to something that is a little tough stance. And I get maybe there was some request, but still, he's been very, very reserved in some of his decisions. I think the timing of this is very interesting, right? Right after the DNC, so Hillary's going to get a bump, maybe give her another bump with some tough action in the Middle East on ISIS. When that's been a weak point in the Democratic Party, that's
well, according to the polls, the DNC, the shambles and Shahs of Drek that it was. Somehow, magically, happened to bump Hillary up a couple of points. But that brings into question about polls in general, as in, do you really believe in the various polls that are coming out right now? After she got a little bit of a bump, depending on which poll you're talking about, it would appear that Donald Trump got a little bit of a bump back. And one of the topics that I'm actually looking very much forward to at the top of the hour is we're going to be talking about Trump and the train wreck because of that, because I have some very serious thoughts about that. But to go back to Libya, Josh Earnest, whose name just, I cannot fathom that this man's name could be more wonderful than Josh Earnest. The White House said President Barack Obama authorized the airstrikes at here we go, deflection time at the recommendation of Defense Secretary Ash Carter. It wasn't Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, it wasn't Obama that wanted these airstrikes. All he's doing is acquiescing to his Defense Secretary, Ashford Carter. The president said has been quite clear that he will deny any safe haven for groups like ISIL or any group that tries to do us harm. Yeah, just a bit late with that.
A bit late, and coincidentally, the Libyan government, which, by the way, is backed by the United Nations, I believe, the Libyan government just happened to request the United States assistance in this.
Well, it's like we say, timing is, after all,
absolutely, absolutely. And I like how the Pentagon says they don't want to predict the pace of these events. Well, I can tell you what the pace is going to be. Watch what's happening with the presidential election cycle, and then predict the pace for what's going to happen in Libya and the Middle East.
Right.
Because the Democrats' position needs to be bolstered in this area.
Well, if you see various polls starting to indicate that Hillary's numbers are going down again, then sort of in a wag the doggish move, you're going to find that someone somewhere needs to be predated by various drones, or we're going to have to revisit Libya and just toss more bombs at them, calling more airstrikes.
Yeah, and I saw a poll recently, and I know we're going to get to it here in the next segment when we talk about Trump. But Hillary's up right now.
Yes, she is.
In a lot of polls, and she's up big, and we can talk about some of the reasons why I think that is. But this is going to bolster that position. And one of the things that Hillary is going for, she's going for the Republican vote. 12% of Republicans are voting for Hillary, whereas there's only 6% of Democrats that are going for Trump. And she just did an interview on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace this past week. First of all, she hasn't done an interview in how long? And then she goes on Fox News with Chris Wallace. And
she's still, after all this time, I think Rush Limbaugh said yesterday, it's been 242 days since she gave a press conference. And what that means is something in an environment that she cannot control herself, where she is subject to questions that she cannot have planted because she cannot stand or operate extemporaneously. It just doesn't happen unless it's scripted or controlled to the nth degree by her.
But Chris Wallace did a pretty good job in some of the questions he was asking. If we have time, I want to get to that. I want to stay on the Libya point right now. But Hillary plays into this because I believe this is a large part of why this administration is engaging in the Middle East right now, and so. I think that she's there because she wants to play and she thinks there's Republican votes out there up for grabs, and I think there are.
Especially in California after Meg Whitman.
Yes, the Obama administration is gonna do some things to help her get along, and I think this is one of those plays. I mean, this opens up really another, I don't want to say another chapter in the fight against ISIS, but it really kind of broadens our response in terms of where we are engaging them, or what type of ordinance we're willing to drop, or how we are willing to commit our military in a foreign country to fight a terror threat that absolutely affects us and our European allies. But still, the fact that Obama is committing these when he's been very reluctant to do so in the past, and talking about scaling down and closing Gitmo and all these other things.
He was the person that decided to get us out of Iraq, certainly.
Yeah, I just think that all these things, Hillary's push to get these votes from the right, all these things are coming together, and so I really, really have to question the timing of this. And granted, the number of documented, or the number of ISIS fighters has grown in Libya, so I'm not saying that there's not a need for this. So I hope none of our listeners are misinterpreting my words, because I certainly can see a need for airstrikes in Libya. Now we can have a discussion about whether we should be there or should engage in that, but I can see a need on both sides of the aisle where somebody would say, hey, yeah, we should do this, or maybe we should consider this, or I can see that discussion taking place because of the buildup of ISIS troops in that region of the world. I just think that they've been building up for a while, and so now we finally decide to take action, because now maybe the UN-backed Libyan government decides to make a request for whatever reason. And I think I'm not saying it's hinky. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying the timing is certainly very, very interesting.
It's not that we shouldn't do that, but in politics, I really don't believe in coincidence.
No,
anymore.
And you look at when did Libya really become unstable? It was in 2011 after Gaddafi was killed.
Right.
Look, Gaddafi was a batshit crazy lunatic, right? He was funding terrorism and talking a whole bunch of trash until we parked some A6 ordnance in his front door and killed his son, and then he went away.
Yes,
in the 80s.
Yes, we had F-111 Oddvox go in there, and we bombed, and we ended
A6 intruders from the Navy.
And we ended up killing his son.
Yep.
And isn't that amazing that right after that, Gaddafi seemed to come around?
He didn't do. He stopped sponsoring terror. I mean, he may have still been a dictator, but he did stop sponsoring terror. He'd come to the UN and bang his shoe around and give some lunatic speech for a couple hours, and then he'd go away again.
Right, and then you never really heard much about him anymore.
Right, he had his harem of whatever, and hey, good on you. And I'm not saying he was a great benevolent leader by any stretch of the imagination, but his country was stable. I was talking to a friend of mine last night at dinner, and he made a good point about Iraq too. He said, look, Saddam Hussein was a complete a-hole, but they had a functioning healthcare system. They had a functioning university system. There was stability.
Yes.
In that country and in that region.
He was an asshole, but he was their asshole.
But he was their asshole, and the country worked. I'm not saying he was a great leader. Like I said,
no.
He should lead over here.
Yeah, the dictator you know versus the dictator you don't.
Right. And so...
And nature abhors a vacuum.
Yes.
And so what have we done? We've created all sorts of vacuums.
Not we. This administration has, and of which Hillary Clinton had a part in that foreign policy, and this is really an area that they're weak on. So again, I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't be doing this, because I absolutely see a need for that. That's not the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is, isn't it freaking interesting?
Yeah, why now? Right now. This week. Today. Right now.
Right now, right after the convention.
Yeah.
Weird. Look, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to get into...
Oh, there's going to be some fun.
We're going to talk about the Trump train.
This is going to be fun.
And the name of the talk is actually the Trump train wreck? Question mark. All this and more, we come back on the Sack Kids Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reverb Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reverb.one website, click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the Unpleasant Blind Guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying capitalist.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours who believe show up front.
Also starring Sokka as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Beware. there, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to Sackhead's radio show. I'm your host, Sackhead Clint. In with me, the bloviating Zeppelin, BZ himself. In for Sean, who is gone for the evening. This is our first show together.
Yes, it is.
This is our first show together.
We've done shows with Sean, with the three of us before, and
yes,
we've done shows at the Freedom Fest. But this is the first time that you and I have done a show together. So I have a question for the people in chat.
Please.
And they bring up a very interesting topic, for one thing. It says the promos are at about 2 dB, and the fellas, us, are at about 80 dB. And I remember from last time, somebody said that in chat when Sean was here, so I wonder if there's something that we need to do to fix the sound.
Is it the sound that's too loud?
Yeah, they're saying that basically we sound okay, but the commercials and the all of the input seems to be really, really low.
Is that better?
Good question. I don't know. But the other thing,
I'm going to start hitting buttons.
Okay, just hit everything.
I'm just going to start hitting buttons.
And maybe missiles will take off in the middle of North Dakota, and you just won't know. But I have a question for the people in chat. Yes, and as White Mamba says, all two of you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, where is it? Dave says, by the way, you guys are slightly overdriven. Been that way all show. And then White Mamba replies, better than underdriven, but yeah, I agree. So, a question. What does that mean? What do you guys mean when you're saying that?
I don't know.
I'm not quite sure I know what their point is. Since I'm watching chat, if you guys would please explain, that would be wonderful. So is it because you guys think that this is false, that this is not the way we are? I don't see anyone in chat right now. Okay, that's all right.
So I want to talk about I want to talk about Trump.
The train wreck.
Seriously, the Trump train is kind of a wreck this week, and I wonder if this is why some of his numbers are down, or when those polls exactly came out. But this guy can't get out of his own way. You know, and I understand the Khan family made some comments about Trump. But that doesn't mean a Gold Star family is up for any kind of debate or is up for any kind of attack. I mean, it's just kind of one of those sacred cows you don't attack, right? A Gold Star family. I mean, even when other presidents have been attacked by Gold Star families, and they don't go after the family members. That's just not something that you do.
I know exactly why he did it, though.
I know why he did it, but it doesn't mean it's a good play.
Oh, no!
You let other people do that, right? He has one person to beat. He doesn't have to beat the Khan family. He doesn't have to beat Obama. He doesn't have to beat anybody. He doesn't have to beat McCain or Paul Ryan or anybody else. He has to beat Hillary Clinton. And that's who he has to focus on. Newt Gingrich made a tremendous point about this last night in an interview he did. And look, Trump needs to just shut up and attack the issues. He can beat Hillary Clinton on the issues. But when he starts making comments about a Gold Star family, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, that's one of those things that an overwhelming majority of the American public are going to be turned off by.
Well, they're not generally going to look kindly on.
And it is a huge, huge mistake. And he's had, I think, in my opinion, he's had a couple big mistakes this week. And I want to get your opinion on this, but I want to get your opinion on the Gold Star family as well as this. He also refused to endorse Paul Ryan, playing the same game that Paul Ryan did to him, using almost the exact same words, saying that, well, I don't know that I'm ready to endorse Paul Ryan at this time. Look, Paul Ryan did that before Trump was the nominee. Paul Ryan did that because Trump is such a polarizing figure within the party right now. But at this point, Trump is the presidential nominee for the Republican Party. He is the party leader, whether he wants to accept that position or not as a condition, quote unquote, of his nomination. He is the leader of the party. It's his job at this point to show that he can move on and be the leader that people are looking for him to be as the Republican nominee, and support these other Republicans. Be the bigger man. Look, I'm not a huge John McCain fan by any stretch.
No.
But as the presidential nominee, it is his job. We're trying not to lose the frickin' Senate, folks. It's his job to come up and say, I support Paul Ryan 110%. Paul Ryan endorsed me for President of the United States. I'm the leader of the Republican Party. I support Paul Ryan 110%. John McCain hasn't supported me. But you know what? Because it's so important for us to keep the Senate, I support John McCain 110% in his re-election bid, unless there's another Republican running against him that he wants to support. And then he should support whoever that Republican nominee is. That's how important this election cycle is. And Trump can't get out of his own damn way. And this is why Republicans, even conservatives like me, have such a difficult time casting a vote for Trump. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, because I really have no choice, given the fact that the Supreme Court is up for grabs and what's at stake. But I have a really difficult time doing it when he does this kind of stuff and he plays these kind of games. Look, I think he's different. I think he can make a difference, but he has to be better than his ego. Hillary Clinton has the same problem in terms of the size of ego, but she's been around long enough to know how to keep it in check and to play to the crowd she's talking to.
And she's smart enough to know that she has limitations, which I don't believe Donald Trump is. You bring in an excellent point that Trump, the category now, is the Trump train wreck, and you're absolutely correct. He cannot get out of his way, and people are expecting that something is going to occur which will make him appear somehow magically presidential. I find myself incredibly conflicted about this, terribly conflicted about this, at the time when we have basically one of the easiest candidates on the Democrat side with which to run a pike through, and we cannot even manage to do that. But Donald Trump cannot get out of his own way because he takes every bit of criticism in a personal fashion. And he cannot, who knows what he's being told by his advisors. No one will ever know. Maybe we'll know later in a year, 2 years, whenever. But he cannot avoid taking things personal. Here's a wonderful example. There was some kind of a bowling baby at one of his conventions recently, either today or yesterday. And he had a golden opportunity to try to enfold women, for example, into the party. And instead, he says, I love babies. You know me. I love babies. And at the end, he wraps up with baby, well, okay, that baby's got to go. He had a perfect opportunity to say something like, I love babies. Babies are wonderful. Hey, Mom, right down there, come on up here. Bring your baby up here.
Yes.
You want to try to get women over for Trump? You invite that mother, put her up on the stage with the baby, crying or not,
Yeah.
And then later on, you bring her up in some other fashion at some other area that he's visiting, and you have just won over women and women who have small children, and infants. That was a wonderful opportunity that he kicked to the curb.
He did. Look, hey, come on up here. Look at this. Look how wonderful this is. This beautiful young lady here with this child. Look, the child's upset, but she's still here supporting me. And this is what America's about, and this is why I'm running for president. Beautiful child, sweetheart. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I understand as a parent how tough it is to be here with a baby, with a crying, fussing child. I commend you for your spirit. Thank you so much for supporting me. How hard is that?
It's not.
And I'm not a politician. Neither is he, but God, you don't got to be an a-hole.
No. It's just, it's so disturbing, confounding, frustrating, any other adjective that you happen to throw in there about that. Trump is, in fact, a train wreck. All the opportunities that he squandered over the past week. Mm-hmm. For example, one of them was, this is the first time since 1949, roughly, that in terms of a recovery, we haven't had a 3% recovery. This is the only president since that amount of time that hasn't had a recovery like that. That's something that you should be screaming from the rooftops. Absolutely screaming from the rooftops. The emails about Hillary Clinton and the cozy position between Hillary Clinton and MSNBC. He should be screaming that from the rooftops, from all those disclosed emails. He should be talking about the emails that are coming in the future that I think Rush Limbaugh, somebody was speaking about recently. Is that the next batch of emails to come out will probably have some kind of an indicator as to why we were in Benghazi. And the theory behind that is that we were going to run guns in there for Libya. And Chris Stevens was perhaps part and parcel of that. That may come out. But that information was already out there. Assange basically said that was coming. That's wonderful fodder for the mill. Mm-hmm. And still not taking advantage of it. And he goes, all right, given this con dude, and he said something about, women are subservient under Islam. Well, don't get me started on Islam, because I just won't stop. Right. But yes, technically, he's correct. Generally, Islam, as practiced, because I say Islam is as Islam does, it would be the same way that the Catholic Church, for example, would be judged. Mm-hmm. But Islam, as practiced, is terribly misogynist. Okay. What he said may be somewhat factual, but you have to be smart enough to realize that this isn't worth a puddle of piss. Avoid that and go back to the issues and start attacking Hillary, right, and show what you're going to do for the country. You can turn a negative into a positive. And for God's sakes, he's not listening to anybody. No. He can't shut the hell up and stop taking everything personal.
And this is why he might lose this election. This is why Hillary Rodham Clinton may be the next president of the United States.
He's had so many opportunities.
And look, he's got Julian Assange. What? He's got Julian Assange trying to help him win, in my opinion, because Hillary is not left enough now. So he figures out, let's get Trump in there. He'll be such a train wreck that we'll get it in 4 more years. That's really what I think. Because why else would he want to hurt Hillary at this point, other than the fact that she's not left enough for him, right? But God, I mean, Trump has this. I really think this is his to lose. But these new poll numbers are coming out.
It is exactly his to lose.
Yeah, but these new poll numbers are coming out, and he is so 10 points. 10 points is the new poll that Clinton leads, and you look at the categories that he's in. The Clinton-Klein ticket beats Trump-Pence by 10%, 10 percentage points. And you look at some of the other things. So Clinton is favored among women by 23 points, by African Americans by 83 points, weird. Hispanics by 48, voters under 30 by 18. So Trump leads in the following categories. He leads Hillary, men by 10 points, 5 points, whites by 10 points, men by 5, white evangelical Christians by 50, and whites without a college degree by 16. That's not great. Romney did better in those categories that Trump is leading, and he still lost the election. It's not because Hillary's a great candidate. Look, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, some very educated people, that are frustrated with both of these candidates. And I get it. I really understand that frustration with both candidates. But they fall back on who is more intelligent and who is capable to be able to do X, Y, or Z. And Hillary Clinton really has demonstrated through a very superficial external way, but she still has demonstrated that she can at least fake the temperament needed to be president of the United States. People that don't follow politics, maybe don't follow her history, see her, hear speeches here and then, and they contrast that with what they know about Donald Trump. So even if they get snippets of information about Benghazi or about emails or about anything else, these other things, what they hear superficially, they're going to respond to in a positive manner. And then you have these sound bites of Trump just saying completely ridiculous things and going after and attacking things and people that he really has no business going after. And that's going to drive Clinton's numbers up when that they absolutely should not be going in that direction. Or I guess maybe I'm making the case that they should go in that direction because Trump is acting like such a knucklehead. I don't want either of these people.
No, the superficially that you mentioned, though, is that's what I call the American media maggot aspect of it. Is the only thing that you're allowed to hear through the mainstream media is that which you're going to be hearing through CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, through that particular venue. So that's where the bulk of people get their information. If Hillary were to shoot a kitten at the corner of 1600 Pennsylvania, the AMM wouldn't cover it for one thing, and you wouldn't hear about it, and probably most of the people wouldn't care in any event. It's extremely frustrating. I was told by my civics teacher in a while ago. Let's just leave it at that. That Democrats don't win elections, Republicans lose them, and that's exactly what is going on right now. Now, I said not too terribly long ago that we still have roughly 3 more months to go. And because of the wacky nature of this particular election, who knows where the hell it could go. But you have an individual who is allegedly intelligent making such ridiculous moves that if he... I am almost out of words. The only thing that I can say, that I continuously say, is the only reason that I would vote for Trump is just because of the potential Supreme Court appointments that the next president is going to be able to make. If it's a 2-term president, you could have possibly up to almost a half of the Supreme Court to appoint, to make nominations for. That's an incredible opportunity that hasn't been around for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have Hillary, guaranteed this, if you have Hillary Clinton in for 4 years, you're going to have her for 8. I can't see any way around that. There is one major option that I'm going to throw into the mix. Because in my estimation, no one is talking about this. And that's the economy. And that's the debt. And that's the budget. No one is making any mention about this on either side of the aisle. And we are not that terribly far away from what I would consider to be an absolute cataclysmic crunch. And it's going to come down, and it will happen basically overnight. It will happen early in the morning. It'll be from New York City, and it'll involve the stock exchange. And it'll make 1929 look like child's play. And this is a nation that is not ready in any way, shape, or form for whatever is going to societally come from some kind of a revolution like that. And I wouldn't even say the word revolution. It'll be a calamity of almost biblical proportions occurring with a group of persons who have never really experienced want for decades. Absolute decades. Something is coming. I can hear it coming. I don't know what form it's going to take, but when you have both sides of the equation completely refusing to acknowledge the staggering amount of debt that the United States is encumbered with, and we don't seem to give a shite about, something's going to pop, and it won't be pretty. And I don't know when, but that's another possible element in the equation. We might have Hillary for full. We might not have Hillary
at all.
At all. I can only hope.
Look, I think Trump beats Hillary on the economy. I do.
Yes.
The man has created jobs. The man has run successful business empires and organizations, and he absolutely beats her hands down. He needs to play to his strengths, though.
And defense. I would say defense.
And defense. His foreign policy, I think, is weak. But here's what I think about. I think, I don't know, Trump is smart enough to surround himself with solid people and a solid cabinet. I don't know that he would listen to them.
God, obviously, we can only hope.
Obviously, because of how this knucklehead has reacted, right? But I think he's smart enough. Look, the man, I don't think you get as far as he has gotten in private business and using the tools that are available to him and the laws that are available to him in terms of bankruptcy and everything else, and still building this mega empire. You don't get there. You don't get where he is.
Yes, and that is what is so absolutely aggravating about that. You can't be a dullard and do what he's done.
You can't. You don't get there and you don't get there by not listening to people. You have to have a team. And I listened to his daughter talk last night. I think it was last night when she was interviewed by, I think, Greta Van Susteren.
Greta, yes, I happened to watch that.
And she talks about how there's almost this team concept of how it's run. So I know that he understands the importance of having a strong, competent team. So I believe that Trump is smart enough to put together a better team than Hillary Clinton would. I believe he's smart enough to listen to that team. I don't know that he would always do what that team suggests, as evidenced by the boneheaded stuff he's done ahead of time or recently by attacking the cons and then the baby incident, like you said. Although I think the baby thing was more off the cuff. Right? That wasn't.
It was, but he could have turned something kind of silly. It was kind of silly, but you could have made
a huge splash.
You could have made a big positive out of it, and embrace that woman, brought up the baby, and trot her out onto the stage again and say, "Hey, remember the woman from so and so? Here she is again." The thing that again,
how's your baby?
Yeah.
Better mood today?
Yeah.
I mean, you could.
Oh, there's so many places you can go with that. But the thing that I find, lots of people are saying, okay, Trump, give it a little bit more time. Trump is going to be presidential in 30, 29, 28. I don't see it coming. Go. You don't have that much time left if you're going to pull out your ace. If you're smart, if you got something up your sleeve, go. It's coming. I can see the hand on the clock.
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh, yeah, the election's not until November. 2 months is an eternity. People will forget about this. That may be. But don't you want to start being memorable now? Right? Why do you want to wait to be memorable right before the election? Yeah. Start being memorable now. Start being exceptional now. Start making an impact now. Don't wait or think, 2 months or 3 months or 1.5 months or whatever is an eternity in politics. That may be. But don't use that as an excuse to act like an ass.
White Mama in chat said that Ken talked about another recession that is likely coming on the Exceptional Conservative show this week. Something is coming down the pike soon enough, though. Don't know if it's going to be a recession or depression.
Interesting. Look, we monetize our debt, right? We no longer print money. Money's an idea. We need more of it, we just digitize it.
Well,
we say, okay, poof, look it, we have more. And it devalues our dollar and our currency. I think it was a huge mistake when we went off the gold and then the silver standard.
And the sad thing is, who did that? Nixon.
Who went off the gold standard?
Nixon.
Nixon didn't go off gold, he went off silver, right?
No, he went off the gold standard.
Okay. So, but we had silver certificates issued after gold was backing our money. So I thought we had silver that was backing our money for a while in the 60s. Either way, we went off of something that was tangible and substantial and that backed whatever our debt was, right? What was it? Was it during the Great Depression when Roosevelt made it illegal for private ownership of gold?
Yes, and you had to turn in all your gold coins and all the various forms of gold.
Yeah, it was a federal crime to possess that.
Yes, it was.
Do we think the government won't or can't or wouldn't try that again? Of course we would. Look, money's an idea. Our dollar has value because we believe it has value.
Stop right there. Hold the presses. You nailed something that I've been attempting to get people to understand for the longest time. I've been investing in stocks for years. I've had a job where I've never made the greatest amount of money, but I started investing as a little kid with my dad reading the newspaper. And so I've done fairly well with myself over the years. I have a number of investments. But you hit on a concept that's not just true for the American stock market, it's true for everywhere. The American dollar, for example, is only worth what people think it is. The stock market is nothing but smoke and mirrors and attitudes and mostly emotions.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that a lot of people cannot grasp. If people think that the American dollar is strong, it's strong. If people think that the American dollar is weak, it's weak. If they think that America is weak under a weak president, that's exactly. Perceptions have so much to do. You hit on probably one of the top 5 truisms as to what happens in life. Mm-hmm. The American dollar is only as strong as people think it is. It doesn't much have to do with numbers. It has to do with the brainulus, the wheelhouse, what happens up here, and what you feel inside. It's all about emotions. You nailed it right there.
Well, thank you. And that's why our economy and our system is so fragile now.
Yes.
Look, we're up against a break. That was a great. When we come back,
that was a great point.
Well, thank you. That was a good segment. When we come back, we do have. I want to get into this ransom payment to Iran. Your segment. So I really want to get your thoughts on that. All this and more on the Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network.
Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the Unpleasant Blind Guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying capitalist.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back on Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network. Welcome back. Thank you for our friends that are still with us in chat. Love all you guys and our listeners. Here with BZ, the Bloviating Zeppelin, in for Sean, who is out on assignment, or as we like to call it, vacation.
Vacazione. In Italian, vacazione is in vacanza.
We're here for the final 26 minutes of the Sackheads Radio Show, and there was so much that happens this week. Paring down topics was so difficult.
It was. There was so much junk going on. A lot of it was junk. A lot of it was extremely important. Question for the people in chat. I think you've adjusted the volumes over there on the board because I could hear it in the headphones. Mm-hmm. Just a question for the people in chat. Are we still overmodulating or the volume's getting a little bit better? Maybe you can give us some input. That said, something very interesting occurred recently. And it's like out of a bad movie where some mafioso walks into somebody else and he's got a suitcase full of cash. And he walks in and dumps it down, and then there's some kind of a transaction that occurs. And the U.S. mafiosi somehow managed to dump a big suitcase with, God, how many duffel bags would $400 million be? $400 million in cash.
I know, Ken heard about this, and this is what he said. That was Ken's response.
Nice.
Yeah. To
no wonder I love Ken.
Yeah.
Well, CNN said U.S. sent plane with $400 million in cash to Iran.
Now that would be funny if they opened the aircraft up and they dumped the whole thing out literally as they flew over the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I would give style points to the Obama administration for that. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what happened.
No, that would be like the WKRP turkey drop.
Right. Look, I would be like, okay, so wait, let me get this straight. $400 million in cash.
$400
Wait,
million
we wasted that?
Yeah,
we wasted that. Well, we waste that all the time. How did we waste that? Oh, an airplane. Over Iran? Oh, wait, they demanded payment? And Obama ordered what? Over the entire country? Oh, and he videoed it as proof of payment. Oh, awesome. Like, I would high-five the president for that. That would just be so amazing to me. I'm not one for government waste, but that would just be such a big middle finger to Iran that I would, drive to Washington, D.C., high-five Ken, and then go to the White House and high-five Obama.
The government pisses away $400 million in
just now.
Toilet liners.
Just now.
Right, exactly. It's gone, right there. Since your last sentence, that shite is gone.
Right.
CNN wrote that the Obama administration secretly arranged a plane delivery, not PLAIN, like an unmarked delivery, but an aircraft delivery, of $400 million in cash on the same day. Same day. Iran released 4 American prisoners and formally implemented the nuclear deal, U.S. officials confirmed Wednesday.
At least it's not part of a bigger settlement, right? I would be more upset if this were part of a $1.7 billion settlement for something else that happened. That would make me even more upset.
Well, I think it's probably climate change. Something bad happened in Iran in terms of...
No, it's actually the first installment. It's actually the first installment of a $1.7 billion settlement.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. That the Obama administration reached for the failed 1979 arms deal. Folks,
but wait!
You can't write this!
You cannot write this stuff, but wait, there's more! Fuck you! Okay, there I was, steam issuing forth out of my ears, covered by the headphones, clapped on the sides of my head, when I read down there, just like you indicated right now, $1.7 billion settlement resolving claims at an international tribunal at The Hague over a failed arms deal.
But it gets better.
Under the time of the Shah!
Yes.
How dead is the Shah?
Very
How
dead.
many shoes does Imelda Marcos have?
Well, here's the even better part. United States law forbids the exchange of U.S. dollars with Iran. Did you know that? That's why the article said equivalent of, because what they did is they bought Swiss, they converted U.S. dollars to other monies.
Okay, there it is. The money was flown into Iran on wooden pallets stacked with Swiss francs, euros, and other currencies as the first installment.
Yes, because the
euros on pallets.
Yes, because it's illegal for the U.S. to give Iran money. It's illegal to give them money, but we can give them money, but not U.S. currency. We have to exchange it first. Wait a second.
This would make a great movie.
Yes.
The visuals are stunning. I can see the palette in the back of some old clapped out C-130. And the loadmaster has pushed all these pallets and euros, and they're kind of dribbing and drabbing out every now and then in the compartment. They're kind of flittering around like dust inside of the C-130.
This would be a good, like Bugs Bunny, Yosemite Sam cartoon. Right? Like, that's how I envision this. Look, this is so... How does this not... And I know making a negative argument is very difficult. How does this not put more American lives at risk? Hey, America's going to pay us. Let's just take some of these tourists, whoever's stupid enough to go tour Iran right now.
Here's what the policy is of most every jail that's logical thinking in the United States of America, and prison. And that's this. They won't tell you, but they have a policy. And the policy is, we have no hostages. We will not dicker for a hostage. We will not pay for a hostage. We have a no hostage policy, meaning we won't negotiate. If you want to take one of our officers hostage, there's going to be hell to pay.
Mm-hmm. And they're not a hostage.
Common sense.
We don't recognize them as a hostage. They're a victim.
No. And so all of the people that work in these institutions, they know this. They know it up front.
They sign a paper.
They sign the paper, and they still manage to operate. And yet, as you point out, what does this do but place a massive target on the back of every American that goes into any foreign country. And now with this policy out in the public right now, let's not stop at Europe. Let's not stop at China or Russia. Let's already go down to South America. Let's go down to Mexico. Yep. Let's go to Indonesia. Let's go to a wide range of islands. Let's go to East Timor.
Well, Hawaii's part of our country.
Let's go to the Philippines. Let's go to anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you probably know already that the greatest amount of Muslims, numerically, is not in the Middle East. It's in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you've done this for Iran, then every American, if somebody gets a bee up their butt and decides that they want to kidnap someone who's just a vacationer, now you've set the precedent where it will be expected by those families, and you can't fault them because they're going to be asking, that you're going to be paying a ransom for my father, my brother, my son, my daughter. You done it here. Now why are you not going to do it for me?
And you know what the argument's going to be. The argument from the administration is going to be, well, no, we didn't pay a ransom. We paid them one installment of a settlement.
Right.
That's going to be the argument. Whoa! And you watch when this question gets posed tomorrow at the White House during the press briefing. We never paid a ransom. And, this characterization of a ransom is completely ridiculous and absurd. We agreed to a $1.7 trillion settlement with the country of Iran for a failed arms deal, of which the United States failed Iran. We had a settlement, and we made a payment on that settlement. The hostage issue and Iran releasing 4 Americans, that's a separate issue. Those negotiations were already underway, but we have a legal obligation to pay this settlement, and that's what we did. And that's going to be the narrative. I will be shocked if that's not the narrative, because that is such a transparent, easy defense and explanation that how do they go with anything but that narrative? Unless they're going to tell the truth. And say, with ransom.
You saw the smile come across my face.
I said unless. I said unless.
It's the truth. But this begs an even more logical question. The Shah was deposed in 78, 79 under Jimmy Carter. That's quite some time ago. That's 36, 37, almost 38 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now, magically, just a question, why is it now that the Obama administration decides that it's going to make the only administration that up to this point has decided that right now, looking at their watch, okay, we'll make the first installment. Why here? Why now? And look, we're going to get some people back. But it's just a coinky-dink.
And the nuclear deal is going to get implemented.
Right. But don't look here. This is not the pallet of euros you're looking for on the back of a clapped-out C-130.
It's like Beverly Hills Cop 2, when Eddie Murphy is in talking about the parking tickets. And the guy says, is there something we can do to make this go away? And Eddie Murphy says, I don't know, what are you talking about? He says, well, you have something in this hand, and it makes you forget about what you have in this hand. You're holding something over here, and you're like, what is this over here? I don't even remember. And Axel Foley says, so if I had $200 in this hand, and he says, ouch, I'm robbing you. 1, 2, 200 is nice and crisp. It's like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I had that audio, because I wish you would have brought that up ahead of time.
Like you said, it's how can this be so brain-glazingly obvious to us, and no one else seems to be A, concerned, or B, asking these questions?
Because who's reporting it?
Well, the one that I was looking at is CNN, but
but who's really? So you can read an article on a CNN or on a news feed, and I haven't seen anything. And granted, I have not watched a whole lot of the networks today, but I haven't seen anything on any of the major networks on this, which means if they're playing it, it hasn't been a major story that I have seen. So how would people know about this?
Well, they ran it under the radar because who reads CNN anyway?
Right.
That's like, Newsweek? Newsweek is digital. Do you read Newsweek?
No.
How about Time? Time is digital.
Nope.
Do you read Time?
Nope.
Me neither.
Nope. So, are people, are younger, our generation, are Gen Xers or Gen Zers, are millennials, are they going to pull up that story on a news feed? Probably not.
No, they used to get the news from Jon Stewart. I don't know who replaced Jon Stewart now.
They're probably Sackheads, I think.
Or Bill Maher.
I think Sackheads.
Bill Maher is actually correct about Muslims, about Islam.
But look, Bill. I think Bill Maher is
he has the stop clock syndrome.
He is. Oh, I don't want to get off topic here too much, but Bill Maher is. He has his views for sure, but I think he not only believes his views, but he actually has critical thinking skills. In some areas, he really does.
Sometimes.
How many? He can think his way to a conclusion. I may not agree with the conclusion, but he can think his way to a conclusion. I don't think Bill Maher, based on what I've seen, he's not one who's just going to take what he saw on Twitter or Facebook and make that into his talking point. I think Bill Maher actually has his own ideas and can think through. I may disagree fundamentally with him on many, many things, but I think that he is able to think his way to the conclusions he has, instead of just regurgitating something that he reads. And I think that's why he has the views on Muslims, for example, that he has, is because he may have a certain lean or a certain thought process to him, but he does have an independent thought process, I think.
That reminds me of a scene from Apocalypse Now in which Martin Sheen is talking to Marlon Brando, who plays Colonel Kurtz, and they were talking about the wackiness of Colonel Kurtz, and he was being kind when he said that his thinking is fundamentally flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, their thinking is fundamentally flawed.
Fundamentally. So I don't know where this goes from here. Is the administration going to make another payment? When is that next payment due? Are they all installments of the equivalent of $400 million, because we obviously can't pay $400 million because that's illegal. So what does this look like? What is the long-term plan?
White Mamba wrote in chat that while the cash transactions took place the same day as the release of the Washington Post reporter, and the other Americans administration officials insist the payment did not constitute ransom and that there was no quid pro quo for the payment. They said the agreement on the release of the prisoners just happened to dovetail with the resolution of parallel negotiations over the dispute of the failed arms deal. Here we go. White House spokesman said, "It's against the policy of the United States to pay ransom for hostages." Just like you said.
There we go. And folks may think I did not read that in the article.
No. And there's your meme right there.
Yeah. So predictable. I mean, granted, that was already out, so I could have read that. I didn't read it, but I didn't have to read it, obviously. So predictable.
No, but it is what it is. I hate to use that phrase. That's such a trite and hackneyed phrase. It is what it is. But America, under the aegis of the guise of Barack Hussein Obama, has said and has now and will in the future place targets on the backs of American citizens. Well, not just people who are going to be logical, tactical targets like soldiers, sailors, things like that, but now have placed targets on any and all potential civilians when they step foot out of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Barack Obama. One last thing before we wrap up. I have an on-deck segment up there, and it's SCOTUS is in this transgender teen ruling they kind of came out with. So Virginia School Board tried to block a transgender male from using boys' restrooms when school started. And or tried, they tried to, but then their case was heard. I believe it was in the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit said, "Oh no, you can't block that student's access." SCOTUS came out today and said, "No, the Virginia School Board can block this transgendered student access to the opposite sex restroom, pending our agreement to hear this case." And this decision was 5-3. So on an even split 4-4 court, you had this 5-3 decision for the Supreme Court to step in and say, hey, you know what? We might take this case, and in the meantime, yeah, we're going to allow this Virginia school board to block this student's access, because we're not gonna. I mean, we're gonna. What other students are put in are in an uncomfortable position or whatnot because of this transgendered student using that facility. So for the need of the one, we're gonna put the needs of the many to the side. So
that perfect Star Trek quote.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. First of all, that it was a 5-3 decision to put this aside,
which is very unique when you think about that.
Yeah, and particularly for the issue.
Yes, you would have expected.
I would have expected 4-4.
Yeah,
I would have absolutely expected 4-4. With Kennedy being in the 4, obviously, right?
Yeah, he's always been the split.
Yeah, so this is one that is going to be interesting to watch, because I think obviously if the Supreme Court decides not to hear this case, then the lower court ruling comes back into play, and the school board has to allow the student to use the opposite sex restroom. But if the Supreme Court decides to hear this case, and this is such a hot button issue in America right now, that I believe the court might agree to hear this case, because there are so many parents who are upset, and so many local communities, and there are so many people upset at this. And to give you some background, this student was born female, identifies as male, and this student's argument was that the school board telling her which bathroom she had to use was really infringing upon her rights.
Did it indicate how old the student was? I'm just curious.
It didn't.
Okay.
It's a Virginia school board, so I'm guessing high school, but okay. I'm not sure. This of course, the ACLU represented this student, and the 4th District agreed, said, yes, the school board cannot ban this on the grounds of privacy concerns, and hey, look, some parents may pull their students from the schools. Well, the Supreme Court said, yeah, you know what, we're going to put that on hold because we might actually agree to hear this case. And I don't think any decision has been made yet. But if they grant the school board's petition for review, obviously they'll make a ruling on it. They'll hear the case. If they deny it, then the order requiring the board to let the student use the boys' restroom will be reinstated. So they'll just defer back to the lower court, and that ruling will stand.
Right.
But I think it's interesting, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on that real quick before we wrap up here.
I'm looking at the bottom of one particular article that's dealing with this, and it indicates justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg, tick, Sonia Sotomayor, tick, and Elena Kagan, tick, dissented.
Shocking.
I know. I hope everyone was sitting down when I mentioned those particular names. Yeah. Here's what I find very interesting about all of this. I'm gonna mention something, and I'll wager I know what the answer is. Mm-hmm. The left has pushed this particular issue, and I suspect that it came about because of none other than Bruce Jenner. I suspect that Bruce Jenner was the tipping point for this, which brought focus upon that particular issue, and then it sort of exploded out from there. But I will wager that most everyone within the sound of my voice at one point or another has had a transgender individual in the bathroom, in their own bathroom that they've seen, and have not been able to know that there was a transgender person in the bathroom because they wanted to meld, to blend in, do what needed to be done, and then get the hell out. So I am almost certain that that's happened to me any number of times, and no one was the wiser. No one wanted to be the wiser. It wasn't a particular issue. It was pretty quiet. That's how things wanted to go. Now we need to overturn everything for a minimal amount of percentile of individuals and turn everyone else's rights, even though it is a Title IX issue, upside down. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. That makes very little sense.
There's an article that just came out, unrelated topic, but I think it's kind of interesting. There is an archaeological site in England that was just discovered with walls about 3 feet thick, and given the location and what they believe the date of these ruins to be, they're saying it's possible that they found the site of King Arthur's birthplace or palace.
Really? Now that would be interesting.
Right?
A wall 3 feet thick would certainly be in keeping with the way that castles and redoubts were constructed in that amount of time.
Absolutely,
that would be in keeping.
So they're saying that it's about. They've also found 150 fragments of glass and pottery that came from distant places. They're exploring some ruins that date from the 5th or 6th century, and they believe it was part of a kingdom called Dumnonia. Never heard of it. And so with everything that they're kind of putting together, they believe it's a royal palace complex that has since been, that they didn't know about, that was not so far obviously undiscovered. And so there is some speculation running around, given the location and what they've unearthed, that this could be part of the legendary King Arthur's birthplace or realm or something like that. So I thought it was interesting.
I like that name,
Dumsnon. I don't know. It's British, and we beat them in a couple of wars, so it
Celtic,
doesn't matter.
Probably, and
yeah,
unpronounceable.
I don't know. So I thought it was interesting. So I wanted to bring that to our listeners. Look, interesting show. There has been so much to talk about. I'm really interested.
There's tons of stuff.
I know we could go on probably for another hour, but I'm really interested to see where Trump goes now. Has he learned? He had a rough week.
It could have been better.
He had a rough week. Does he learn, or is he such a stubborn ass that he's going to keep down this trail, or is he doing it on purpose?
You'd like to think, in terms of keeping a bit of conservatism in the White House, you'd like to think that there's some kind of a plan, an overall arc of logic and planning and thinking within this. I'm not quite convinced of that.
Yeah, you think he's just a buffoon.
But still... All right,
he's our buffoon.
But right? But what's the alternative?
Exactly.
You know, I still hear people like Michael Medved on the air berating Donald Trump. Okay, you know, that's like, how tough is that, Michael? Please get a grip. What's your alternative? There is no alternative. What is the alternative? The alternative is the libertarian Gary Johnson, who says that we need to basically kill all carrier groups. You moron. Number one, that wouldn't happen. But number two, that's a moronic idea in terms of defense. Number three, hot and cold running drugs for everyone. And number four, completely porous borders. Why have borders? Let's not have sovereignty in the first place.
Right.
Not happening for me. I'm a libertarian, little L, not the big L kind of
Me too.
individual. I draw the line at certain things. Audit the Fed. Let's kick down the doors of Fort Knox and find out the bad news, because I'm all about finding in the bad news, and let's talk about some reality.
Yeah.
It's been a great show.
It's been a great show. Folks, join us next week when I believe Sackhead Sean is back as well. Sackhead's radio show. Enjoy all of our other shows on the SHR Media Network. The Reaver of Common Sense, Unpleasant Blind Guy. On and on. Second best newsman in the business, Dan Butcher with us. Check us out on shrmedia.com. We're on Spreaker. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Follow us. Check out the Bloviating Zeppelin. BZ, my friend.
Thank you, Clint. It's been wonderful.
It's been a great show. Thank you so much to all, and good night.
And to all a good night.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Tackheads Radio.
Tack News. Tack News.
Radio.
Tack News. Tack News.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.